Well, the day is here, the day we've finally been waiting for, the official release date of Sonic Forces. I do apologize for taking this long to get to the review. Unfortunately, all of my chances of getting an early leaked copy that bypassed its street date were shot down by the fact that I work at an electronics store, and even if I didn't get a street date broken copy from there, someone would have saw the gameplay on my channel and would have probably gotten me fired from my job and fined lots of money. Anyways, so what's the verdict? Well, Sonic Forces is good, asterisks. We'll get back to that in a second. However, before we continue forward, I do want to mention one thing. A lot of people gave me a bad time for liking Forces early on, considering the fact that most people thought it was dead on arrival, but all of the early gameplay and trailers were from an unfinished product. Because not only is there evidence of various changes occurring over time, the game itself has also changed too. As someone who played the demo, I noticed a couple things that were slightly different. And I think that the people who got previously broken street-dated copies of the game before it even came out and got its day one patch were reviewing an unfinished product. And before you jump and shit all over Sega and Sonic Team for releasing a game that required a day one patch, literally almost every game nowadays requires a day one patch. It is very, very unlikely that games are going to release complete nowadays, now that our technology can allow you to patch the games over Wi-Fi with downloadable content. Anyway, so back to that asterisk from earlier. I think this game is a good game, and I think you'll think it's a good game if you are a fan of the 3D Sonic games such as Sonic Colors. Sonic Unleashed and Generations were a little bit more linear than this game is. I think Colors is the best way to compare it. And if I'm being honest, I really liked Colors, so I had a feeling that I was going to enjoy Forces, and I did. I thought it was fun. I didn't think that it was outstanding. I don't even think it's in my top 5 Sonic games. However, as a game itself, I found it to be really, really enjoyable. Fast-paced, frantic, and fun. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start the official review here and kick off with the plot synopsis. Sometime in the future, Dr. Eggman finds a magical gem, I believe it's the same one from Mania, and uses it to create a brand new life form to track down and kill Sonic and friends. This device is called the Phantom Ruby, and it can be used to alter the world as we know it. In your own perception? Is it like Inception? While all this is going on, we cut back to Sonic, who's running through Green Hill Zone, which is now filled with sand for some reason. He makes it back to the city, where he squares off against Eggman and a couple of his bots, when suddenly a plethora of fan service comes in, and Zavik, which all of these are enemies that we've either clearly see die or from a different dimension, so we know that something's up as a gamer. However, Sonic is just as confused as we are at this point. Hovering above them is this anonymous shadowy figure who then proceeds to kick Sonic's living ass. Sonic blacks out, and just like the franchise, he's presumed to be dead, with the rest of his friends forming a group called the Resistance to try to fight off Eggman. They decide to recruit a new hire who is your custom character. Yes, you can make whoever you want, and I attempted to make Shadow. Shut up, I know it didn't work. And you're given your first mission to infiltrate the chemical plant to find a spaceship. While this is going on, Tails is trying to fix Omega in a crumbling city as opposed to, bringing him back to the lab to work on, when he is attacked by Chaos and saved by Sonic, but not the same one that we saw supposedly die. No, this Sonic is a lot fatter and a lot quieter. Yep, it's Classic Sonic, back from Generations. While Tails and Classic Sonic are pissing around an abandoned city, the rest of the team thinks it's a really good idea to break into the Death Egg to see if Sonic's being held prisoner there instead of, being dead. And it turns out that he was. He was in fact held in a prisoner cell by Zavik, who Sonic beats the ever-living shit out of. When they're leaving, the custom avatar runs into Sonic, and they have a very one-sided conversation because the custom avatar for some reason doesn't speak, just like Classic Sonic, making two characters a complete mute. While this is going on, Tails and Classic Sonic eavesdrop on Eggman talking to this new character, Infinite, about the Phantom Ruby, which apparently powers him. Tails and Classic Sonic hop out from behind the bushes and engage Eggman in a little battle, which really doesn't have much meaning on the plot, then follow him into the deep woods where they finally meet up with the modern team. This is also the area where Infinite and Sonic officially have their first conversation. I don't count that little bit in Park Avenue. The team then heads back to the base.
It's been generations since I seen you. You okay?
When I first played this and heard that dialogue, I tried adding a sin to the counter before realizing that I'm not doing a CinemaSins parody of Forces, although I do have to give credit that that was kind of a decent pun. Anyways, the rest of the game up until the end can be summed up as the heroes just running after Eggman over and over again, trying to find out more about the Phantom Ruby and trying to kick Infinite's ass and trying to take the world back. There's not really a hell of a lot of substance here. However, the story doesn't need to be overly complicated for a fictional tale about a fictional hedgehog. Towards the end of the game, the team does try to foil Eggman's plan once and for all and shut down the Death Egg, only to find out that the Death Egg wasn't where the Phantom Ruby was getting its power from. So what the hell was the point of even building it? Eggman reveals that his next plan is just to have the sun crash into the planet and wipe everyone out, with him on the planet still. However, the custom avatar has a little Phantom Ruby up his sleeve, which he throws into the sun because apparently this is a frickin' Superman movie, and that royally decreases the sun's power, meaning that it basically kills the sun. How is this planet still alive? Does this ecosystem not need a sun? Does this solar system not need a sun? Eggman reveals one final contraption, which I'll keep spoiler free for this review so that way you people can be surprised because it is a pretty cool looking thing. After the team eventually do conquer Eggman, which I don't consider to be a spoiler because obviously it's a frickin' Sonic game, the team says their goodbyes, has a nice speech about friendship and the power of threes or whatever the hell. Classic Sonic goes back to his dimension, and the custom avatar leaves to go join a DeviantArt group. And that's pretty much all she wrote right now. I know that there is a free prequel DLC starring Shadow, however I have not played it, so I don't consider it to be part of this review. Well, the story wasn't the most exciting thing in the world, I'll be honest. It was pretty cool at parts seeing Classic Sonic interact with Tails in the way that I hoped that they would interact in Sonic Generations. However, the rest of the story seems kinda dull and is just kinda there. Infinite's a really cool villain, but we don't really get to see enough of him. We don't really learn enough of him aside from the fact that he's powered by the Phantom Ruby. There's also the fact that a lot of the story just is flat out unnecessary. The team tries to conquer the Death Egg once, fails, tries to do it again because they think that that's what's powering the Phantom Ruby, succeeds, shuts down the Death Egg, and then it turns out that that's not what's powering the Phantom Ruby. So what was the point of the Death Egg being in this game aside from levels? But that's not the most important part of the game. I would say the gameplay is the most important part, and I think that Sonic Forces hits it decently on the head. I'm not going to act like this is a 10 out of 10 perfect game, but there's a lot of elements here I really liked. We'll start with Modern Sonic first. You get the boost, homing attack, stomp, everything that you would expect from Generations, with the exception of the drift, which has been removed for some reason. Sonic's got his 3D boost to win sections and his 2D slower platforming sections that we have come to expect nowadays from the modern formula. The only difference between this and a level from Generations, for example, is that the Generations levels are a lot less linear than this game. There are a lot of straight lines here. However, I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing because the game also offers tons of platforming in the 2D sections and in the custom hero sections. You like that segue? The custom hero is by far my favorite portion of the game because it plays sort of like a traditional 3D platformer but with incredibly high speeds, if that makes any sense. Kind of plays like the adventure games in a way, but with a lot more linear of stages, not really branching off too much. However, I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing because there is still a lot of alternate routes to take, especially in the stages where Modern Sonic and the Avatar play together. There are so many different ways to complete the level. Finally, it's Classic Sonic time, and it's basically the same as Generations. The physics feel a little bit different, however, I don't necessarily think that they're bad. Although, honestly, I'm not really the type to ask. I just play games because they're fun. I don't nitpick and study every intricate detail like a lot of this fan base does. No shame to anyone who finds enjoyment doing that, I just have other things to do. The classic Sonic levels to me seem like they're the most boring, but only because they're being compared to two versions of 3D levels with a lot more speed and action. You do have the drop dash this time around, returning from Sonic Mania, and it works exactly like it did in that game. However, the spin dash isn't an instant button anymore, so if you preferred that from Generations, I'm sorry. And then finally there's the bosses, each of which are mildly interesting, if not a little bit easy. The only boss that gave me a bit of trouble is the final boss, which once again I'm not going to show because I don't want to spoil it because it's actually pretty cool. However, I will say that the boost capsule is in the wrong spot all the time for those who understand what I'm talking about. Overall, the gameplay isn't really a problem for me, however I can definitely see why other people don't like it. And honestly, if you're the type that really likes the branching paths of the adventure games and doesn't like the linearity of Adventure 2 and Colors, you probably won't like Sonic Forces, once again continuing on from what I said before. However, if it never really mattered to you and you just like going fast and having fun, then you're probably going to enjoy the gameplay in this game. I know I did. There are a couple minor gripes I do have with the level design though. This one spot in Metropolis with these auto-moving platforms can fucking blow me. Seriously, every time I'm about to beat this level with a perfect ring count, I always get screwed by these stupid platforms and I'm always thrown into spikes. I hate gimmicks like this. It's the same problem I had with Lost World and the giant fucking snowball. Also, why the hell is there an auto-scrolling section in a classic Sonic game? Am I playing Sonic 1 on the Master System? Is that what this is paying tribute to? It controls like ass when it's auto-scrolling. I like taking my time with classic Sonic, not being forced, no pun intended, to hurry the hell up, which should be the job of the Avatar character or modern Sonic. On a much lighter note, the presentation of this game is actually pretty phenomenal, especially for the Switch version, which is surprising. I was not expecting it to look this nice, although it does run at half the frame rate. Although if I'm being honest, if you did buy the Switch version or you have a low-end PC for the Steam version, 30 FPS with this game doesn't really look that bad. Everything smooths together and blends nicely, especially with the gorgeous visuals. This is one of the nicest looking Sonic games I think we've seen in a while. It doesn't even come close to competing with Unleashed, but it looks significantly nicer than Lost World, and I think it looks a billion times better than Boom. From what I've seen, a lot of people are complaining about the oversaturation of grays, but that's how it's supposed to look. This is a post-apocalyptic world where Eggman took over. It's not supposed to be as bright and colorful as Sonic Generations, guys. And I think the music is for the most part pretty awesome as well. I love all of the modern and Avatar stage themes. The only ones I dislike are classic Sonic's music, which just sound like a Genesis farting. I understand what they're trying to do here. However, if they wanted to make Genesis-style music, why not put it into Sonic Mania and leave the newer instruments for a modern classic style sound? I know that sounds contradictory, for Forces. The Avatar creator is also pretty neat, although I don't personally find interest in creating an OC at this point in my life. I think that it's pretty cool that you can mess around, and it gives you quite a few options and different responds, so that way you can change the gameplay slightly of your avatar. The only thing I do have to give the game a little bit of shit for is that they reuse assets a lot. And I mean, each of these characters pretty much goes through each of the stages once, and keep in mind that there's 3 characters. It's a lot worse than Sonic Generations, where you have to play the same level twice, one side-scrolling, one mostly 3D, because now you have to play it 3 times, and you're seeing a lot of the same assets used over and over. The good news is the level design changes just enough to the point where it doesn't get boring, but after looking at Death Egg for the 3rd time in a row, it gets a little bit stale on the eyes. And that's pretty much all there is to say about Sonic Forces. Overall, I had fun. Your mileage may vary. If you watched this video, you saw the gameplay and you thought, this looks like a lot of fun, I enjoyed colors, I would probably give this a shot, then give it a shot. However, if you're not a fan of the modern Sonic games like Sonic Colors or Sonic Unleashed to a certain extent, then you're probably not going to like Forces. This game just isn't for you. However, if you're on the fence, I would download the demo, which is on the eShop and I believe the PlayStation 4 now, and see if you like it. Hell, some Black Friday sales are selling it for $25, so if you don't mind shelling out a little bit of cash, you could get the full thing for basically nothing. Not to mention, if you're an early adopter, you can also get the free Shadow DLC, which not only acts as a prequel, but it also gives you Shadow as a playable character in a couple stages, and it also adds 3 more levels to the game. However, whether or not you want to buy this is totally up to you, obviously. I personally recommend it if you enjoyed Colors. If you didn't enjoy Colors, then maybe play the demo before checking it out. Anyways, this has been DanRock. Thank you so much for watching. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Sonic Forces, so please leave them in the comments down below. And if you've somehow made it to the end of this video, well, you're amazing. Thank you, and peace out, and take care.